Hello, hello. I want to just take a second and talk to you about how does change and transformation actually look when we're talking about not just the scale, when we're talking about not just weight goals, when we're talking about behaviors. This is much more difficult to monitor, hence why I think so many people feel like they're never making quote unquote progress. I had a client who was really struggling with people pleasing. She was struggling with eating food that she didn't really want to eat because she didn't want to tell her partner no. She had a lot of stories in her head about what she thought he was thinking. And finally, she had a little breakthrough moment where she sat down with him and said, hey, I'm really not loving what's happening here. I'm noticing I'm eating things I don't really plan for. My weight's not moving in the direction I want. This is what I am thinking you might be thinking about me. And then he actually came back and said, no, I actually love the quality that you had when we were dating. And you would say it doesn't fit into my budget. But after she had this breakthrough moment, she was super stoked. She was like, all of a sudden it became easier. Everything became easier. Saying no to the treats became easier. Eating the food that worked for her became easier. And she said, I finally feel like I'm making progress. And see, that's the problem. We think the progress is this one moment in time. When we have that conversation, we finally get up the guts to do it. We then have that moment where everything seems to shift kind of naturally after. And we think that that was the moment in time we made progress, but it wasn't. For months, we had been talking about her desire to people please. We've been talking about the stories and the drama. For months, we had been circling this subject. That is the part of the process that no one notices. When you finally have a breakthrough moment, something clicks. You're like, oh, no, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. I'm going to continue to eat the fruits and vegetables. I'm going to continue to go for the walk. And you probably had listened to hundreds of podcasts first, right? You had maybe watched multiple videos. You had maybe even been in the Half Size Me community for a year, just taking everything in. See, you see that as dormant, like nothing was happening, right? But there was something happening. What was happening was your brain was slowly learning. It was slowly migrating. It was slowly changing. It's almost like a soup, right? You sit down and you eat this delicious bowl of soup and you say, oh my God, that was a great bowl of soup, as if it was just made in a second. But for most good cooks, they know that soup kind of takes all day, right? You chop up things, you saute it, you simmer it, you let it kind of continue to cook on low on the back burner. It doesn't just become the soup. It had to go through a process that almost seemed like nothing might be happening, right? It's just a pot sitting on the stove. But then there's the soup. It's that moment that you get to eat it and taste it and enjoy it. That's how education, that's how learning, that's how personal growth happens. I told my client that was the breakthrough moment, but that wasn't the moment you were successful. You were successful for the 6 months or 3 months or whatever amount of time it was that you and I kept pecking away at this, baby stepping, working you through this process of letting go of your stories, your drama, your people pleasing. And then you finally had a moment where you got up the nerve to have this conversation that's probably been brewing, like that pot of soup, for a while, because you kind of were starting to question, should I trust my thinking on this? Like, I've learned so much in these other areas of my life, right? But it doesn't happen I think people think it's like a snap of fingers. Boom, you got it. No. You had like a kid riding a bike. Here's another example. You see the kid finally pedaling without the training wheels on his bike. Was that the breakthrough moment? Yes, but did he have success all along the way? Like maybe he fell down within 2 seconds the first time. Then he fell down after 30 seconds the second time. Every one of those was a mini success that led to the breakthrough moment, right? It doesn't happen in one fatal instant, or one specific instant, I should say fatal. But it doesn't happen in one instant. There is all this like spiraling around the issue, brewing, whatever you want to call it, where you're just kind of taking in information, learning. And honestly, those are the emails I get all the time. Hey, Heather, I've been listening to you for years. I finally got it, right? And it might take you years. It might take you months. You might seemingly be doing quote unquote nothing. You don't see progress on the scale. You don't have a breakthrough moment like my client did. But I promise you, you are. You're pecking away at this by learning, by trying new things, by questioning your own thinking. All of that is required for you to change, right? And then one day you wake up and you go, hey, maybe my boyfriend doesn't think these things about me. Maybe we should have this conversation. And that moment seems like the breakthrough. But there was a huge lead up to it. So I want you to think about changing your story. Instead of saying, I'm not being successful because nothing's happening, what is it you are slowly changing that's going to lead to that breakthrough moment? How is your thinking changing? How are you starting to question your own thoughts and seeing things differently? Because if none of that foundational stuff happens, you're really not going to have the breakthrough moment. If every time you hear a different idea than what you're accustomed to believing, you're going to say, oh, I'm going to turn this off. I don't agree with this. I'm not going to listen to this. So how will you ever change, right? You've got to have a change of thought to have a change of action. I'm going to say that again. You got to have a change of thought to have a change of action. Where do all your actions come from? Your thinking. So if your thinking stays the same because you refuse to take in different ideas than the ones you've held close to you, I've got to be a people pleaser. I have to make people like me. I don't know what they're thinking. I'm just going to continue to make up stories about that. As long as you hold tight to your belief system and your thinking, nothing in your life will change because your thoughts generate your actions. Your actions are a byproduct of how you think. So if you want different actions, change your thoughts. And that's what I was working on with my coaching client. We were working on teaching her how to think differently to get different results. She just saw that as a big moment for her. But I saw tons of little moments where she had breakthroughs. They all led to a massive breakthrough. So I want to encourage you to think about your own journey differently. Encourage yourself to take in different thoughts. And just think of that pot of soup. You might be just sitting there brewing, taking it in, but when that moment happens where there's a shift, it was all of these different things that led to that moment. You guys have a great day. Please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon.